Hello, Kettlebell Kings on YouTube. I am jumping on a little bit early here just to make sure that we are live and we are good. I see that someone's tuning in from Southeast Georgia. I am in Atlanta. I am the founder of a program called Kettle Club. You're going to be hearing this again in just a second when I go live on Instagram, but I just want to tell you guys first because I feel like I never really get to talk to my YouTube people as much, mostly because I'm used to streaming on Instagram. But today, we're going to be going over kettlebell complexes and how to build them, not just in exercise equipment load, so picking the right weight, but also picking the right exercises and picking the right number of reps to complement the load and the exercises that you're working with. So we're going to go over lots of different things today, how to be mindful and intentional about how you build these complexes and just basically to get the most out of the bell that you have at home. I'm going to go ahead and go live over here on Instagram, so give me just a few seconds and we'll be right back with you. Hello, Kettlebell Kings friends. My name is Madeleine Conti. I am the founder of a program called Kettle Club in which we build flows. That is my big thing, but today is not about flows. It is about complexes and why they're wonderful. I will say the bigger thing about my program is not necessarily the flows, but the complexes that we use to get to those flows. If you're just logging on, hello, I am tuning in from Atlanta, Georgia. It is freezing here and it is cold and it is the week of a holiday. So besides learning a bunch of stuff about complexes today, we're also going to be taking care of those glycogen stores that you might have been stocking up on leading up to the holidays. So complexes, why people might prefer them to flows. I will give you this. I love flows, but I prefer complexes for my training. That's because I can take a single kettlebell, a single weight, and get a ton out of it if I'm really mindful about the pairing of exercises and also the number of reps per exercise to make the most out of my belt. So what we're going to be doing today is going over two different ways that you can approach building a complex, one of which is skill-based, performance, centric, if you will. And the other one is kind of pre-exhausting a muscle group to get the most out of your bell if you only have, let's say, a light bell, but you need to train heavy with it. So we're going to go over kind of those things, and then we'll do kind of a little workout at the end. So let's start with some mobility just to get our bodies moving, and then I'll talk more about those complexes and how to break them down later. Let me 1 second here. All right. So let's start on the floor, tabletop position. We're going to do cat-cow a few times, get the spine moving, tucking the pelvis and pressing away from the floor as much as you can for cat, and then arching your back, turning your pelvis up, squeezing your shoulder blades down and back for cow. Go 2 more times. Come up onto your knuckles, turn your palms in neutral, and let's bring your right foot around to the outside of your hand. I want you to squeeze your knee into your shoulder, and I want you to keep going through your cat and cow. It's going to expose tightness in the adductor and hamstring. And generally speaking, I really like to find tension and lean into it in the mobility portion, because that's what we're going to be doing with all of our movements later, loading them. So I want to make sure that we're owning these positions in just a body weight position first. All right, switch sides. Again, squeezing the knee into the shoulder. If you're just logging on, we are going through mobility, and then we're going to get into the how and why to build complexes. All right, switch legs again and sit upright to a tall, half-kneeling position. I want you to tuck your pelvis where the cage is going to be down, so it's really going to be exposing tightness in the TFL and quad. I want you to grab your foot behind you. If you can't grab your foot, you can use a kettlebell to prop your foot up. The perfect little apparatus for this. And again, emphasis on tucking the pelvis. Let's switch sides. Little couch stretch on the other side, so either propping your foot up behind you or grabbing your foot with your hand. Another big thing is scapula movement. Let's go ahead and stand up. We're going to go through 4 different positions for the scapulas. We're going to start with our arms straight out in front, squeezing our shoulder blades down and back. For all of these movements, I'm going to think of keeping all of this very rigid, very solid, so tucking the pelvis, rib cage down, as I was saying, for our half kneeling position, and I'm creating tension in my lats by squeezing the shoulders down and back. From there, I'm going to reach far forward through the shoulder blades, then shrug up, and then squeeze back, down, forward, up, and back. If you ever have issues with levator scapula, so that little muscle that runs underneath your shoulder blade up into your neck, if you ever have really tight neck, the scalenes, these are really incredible exercises to help activate the lat and take some of the tension off of those muscles that, with a lot of overhead work, like we do with kettlebells, can become a problem. All right, from here, I want you to bring your arms like this. So we're opening the chest and we're gonna rotate back. A very important part though is I'm driving this right hip forward as I'm rotating back. So I'm driving against the rotation that I'm doing, creating tension. As I was saying before, we want to find as much of that in our mobility and warm up as possible. This arm in the back, I'm gonna be doing little rotations, squeezing my shoulder blade down with every little lasso that I'm doing. That is, again, getting into the lat, getting it activated. We want it to be active and a big mover for these weights that we're going to be working with. Come back to the front, open the chest, rotate back, extend the arm behind you, little circles. All right, next up, we're gonna be on the floor doing Superman snow angels, even more shoulder work. So laying with your chest down, ankles are gonna be flexed, toes on the floor, arms out in front of you, palms are up. We're gonna keep the chin tucked, but I understand you need to look at me. So first, just lift your hands up off the ground, palms are up. Fly around to your hips, palms will be up again, so we're going into internal rotation in the shoulder, and then fly back around to the front, external rotation. Once you know what you're doing, tuck your chin so that your spine is neutral and we're not craning the neck. Goal would be to fly your hands as high up off the ground as possible. Stay rigid through your body, creating tension, so locking out the legs. It's gonna help support this movement. And rest. Arms are gonna go out to the side. We're gonna bend your left knee, lift it up off the ground by squeezing the glute, open the hip, and rotate back until your foot is on the floor. Come back to the center, other side. This is called the floor scorpion. And then lay on your back, right knee in your chest, right arm out to the side. We're gonna pull the knee across your body, supine twist. Goal is to keep those shoulders on the floor. So if you don't make it to the floor, that's okay with the knee. The biggest thing is keeping the shoulders on the floor and opening the chest. With every breath out, trying to relax into that stretch a little further. Come back to the center, other side. All right, we are done with that. But if that doesn't prove that I'm very teaching forward, I don't know what does. Does anyone have any questions before we get started? Any burning questions for me? Maybe you've followed my stuff for a while and you're like, what the heck is she doing with these kettlebell flows? We are not doing flows today. We're gonna be doing complexes. And as I was saying, we're gonna be making sense of how to build them. So there's a couple different ways that we can approach it. One is, let's say that I've got just this single bell. And I want to get the most out of it, but I want to get the most out of it for performance of a skill. I'm going to make that my focal point of the complex. And the focal point needs to come first because I want to give as much energy to that thing as possible. Let's say that it's a half snatch. So a half snatch would be from the floor or a hang or wherever you're starting from, going up in one smooth motion overhead and then pulling back down to the front rack. The reason I would maybe train a half snatch versus one where I'm swinging down from it is because I want to conserve all of my energy for that explosive movement from the floor overhead. Now, to complement that, I would follow it up with a skill that's either the same muscle group or an opposing one, and both of which would save you time. So that's kind of the other thing about complexes is it makes your training way more efficient because you can pair two things together that make sense to go together. What we're going to be doing is both of those things. So we're going to be doing a half snatch paired with either strict presses or Viking push presses, and I'll go over what those are. And then also we're going to be doing it paired with a long press or just an offset front rack squat. So that'd be a great way to save you time and also make it a full body workout. So let's start with the half snatch and the strict press first. Again, the goal is to get as much out of these reps of the half snatch as possible. And when I say get as much out of it, I mean be as explosive as possible. And when training for performance, the goal should be for every rep to look the same. It might not feel the same, but you're giving it the same explosiveness and energy and gusto, if you will. And if that starts to fail, that means you've done too many reps to truly be training for performance. So we're just going to be doing 2 hang half snatches, and then we're going to follow it up with 3 strict presses. The hang half snatch is going to be starting with the kettlebell right in between your feet in what's called a dead position. Now, I'm assuming that the majority of people tuning in from the Kettlebell Kings page have worked with a kettlebell before, but maybe haven't done a snatch. So I'm going to go over just some basic things for the snatch. This is not going to be a snatch tutorial video though, just so you know. So we're going to be starting with the kettlebell in between your feet, again, in the dead position, and I'm going to lift up to the hang, which is going to be a few inches off the floor. Now, my goal out of this is going to be jumping and smoothly bringing the bell up overhead. I want the bell to travel in a straight path up, not to the side, not back and around. It's not a clean. It's going to be up and then letting the bell turn over and punching underneath it, punching my chest through and landing with that kettlebell overhead. I might end up leaving the floor with my feet, and that's okay. That means I'm truly giving it my all, and I want to do that no matter if it's an 8-kilo bell or an 18-kilo bell. This is a 12, if anyone was curious. All right, so I'm starting by depressing the shoulder blade, opening the chest, making sure my arm is locked out, and I'm going to lift to the hang. From here, I am going to explosively snatch the bell overhead and fall over, apparently. Once I get the bell overhead, I'm going to pull back down to the front rack and back down to the hang. Again, and that is my second rep. From here, I'm going to do my strict presses. 3 presses to emphasize the shoulder, tricep, and lat portion of this complex. I'm going to pull down to the floor, reset, and do it from the other side. Snatch, pull back down to the front rack, back down to the hang, snatch, pull down, and I've got my 3 presses. With this complex, again, the emphasis is on the performance of the snatch, but also the time-saving component of working the rest of that arm during the complex. So that by the end of my workout, I've kind of checked a lot of different boxes: performance, muscle endurance, and strength, and also conditioning. I can't breathe right now. So does anyone have any questions about that? So what I'm going to do is basically just take you guys through different variations of all of these different complexes and tell you the why behind it. So if you've ever been curious about why I program the way I do, why my program is built the way it is, these are all my answers. This is my cheat sheet right here. So next up, I'm going to show you guys a Viking push press instead of the strict press. So over the course of your rounds of the complex, you might become tired. And again, the number one goal is the performance of the half snatch. So you might need to change the number of reps that you're doing to, again, keep the integrity of the snatch the same from rep to rep. So maybe instead of doing 2, I scale it back to 1. Again, this is considering if you only have 1 bell. Obviously, if you have multiple, you could change the load. But the other thing to do would be changing either the number of strict presses that we're following up with, or maybe doing a different kind of press, a push press or a Viking push press where I'm pulling down, catching, and going right back up. And they're linked together with no stops. that would be my Viking push press. So I love pairing those two together. My Kettle Club family sees this complex a lot, and that's because we're working with a heavier weight that's very challenging for the snatch. So doing strict presses after those snatches, they're exhausted. So I'm generally speaking not putting strict presses behind it, but I wanted to give you guys that option so you could kind of understand it. And that would be kind of like the starting point for everything. All right, so what we're gonna do now is those 2 hang half snatches, and then follow it up with 3 Viking push presses instead. Again, instead of pulling down and going back up with a rigid body, I'm keeping this part rigid, but I'm dipping and driving through my knees and ankles. And you might even, again, leave the floor with your heels. So let's go ahead and do it. Right hand on the bell. We're gonna get down to that dead position, lift up to the hang, pause here, and snatch. Pull down to the front rack, down to the hang, snatch. From here, I'm dipping and driving and going overhead 3 times. Dip and drive once, twice, 3 times. Pull down to the floor, and we'll repeat on the other side. Hang, snatch. Pull down to the hang, snatch. From here, dipping and driving, 3 Viking presses. And park the bell. Cool. How does that feel? Does that make sense to you guys? I am very, very teaching forward again, as I said. Sorry if that's annoying to anyone. Someone said that on a live before. He's like, too much talking, more action. I'm like, I know. But the thing is, my thing is empowering my students to understand what they're doing and why they're doing it, so that if they don't have access to my program one day, they know what I would tell them to do. So giving them as much information as possible without information overload. It's kind of a testy line to toe, but giving them as much information and like making sense of the workout is a thing that I try to do. So there is another way that we can approach this. So I was saying there's 2 different kind of ways we can build a complex. One way would be doing the performance aspect first, and then following it up with something that makes sense, either complementing it with something that's, muscle exhausting for the muscle that we're mainly working in that lift, or just whatever we want to focus on that day. There can also be the reverse. We could pre-exhaust the muscle before then going into the other skill. Now, one that I love, because I rarely have a heavy enough bell for swings, is doing leg drivers to kind of exhaust my legs before going into swings to make this 12-kilo bell feel heavier. So it would be like doing a dead hang from overhead and then doing pull-ups. Those pull-ups are going to feel so much heavier if you've already exhausted your lats, right? So what we're going to be doing is these leg drivers where I'm pulsing back and forth, creating a little bit of exhaustion in the legs, so that then when I go into my swings, it actually feels like something. Now, that still didn't feel like anything because the 12 would be very light for me for the swings. But again, it's kind of a great example of how can we figure this out? How can we problem solve around only having a 12-kilo bell? So we're going to do that. Now, another way to kind of scale it even more would be a single arm. So that single arm is going to be more challenging for the core at minimum. It's also going to feel like a little bit more load for that single arm holding the bell. So we're going to go through that. Let's start with the 2 hands on the bell, just so you guys can learn the leg drivers. The leg driver is sort of a swing back and forward, but it's mostly just getting used to the weight shifting of the bell going back and your body going the other way. So as the bell goes back, my chest goes forward. As the bell goes forward, my chest goes back. And with a little pulse in my knees and my hips, I'm essentially stopping the bell at the apex of its swing when it's either back or forward and helping it change direction. And that is my leg driver. Now I'm feeling it. So I want you guys to go ahead and practice that skill really quick. I'm going to do another 10. So back and forth equals 1. All right, so let's go back and forward 10 times, park the bell. Let me know if you have questions about it. I will say this, the thing between you and the bell is a spine that can move a lot. We want to make it rigid because obviously we've got this load in our hands. We're kind of getting it close to the midline, but this one we're actually kind of playing with shifting away from the midline. So our feet are the midline, the bell is going to be one direction, and my chest the other, right? So as the bell is swinging back, again, my chest is going forward and vice versa. So go ahead and practice this. Somewhat gluing my arms to my torso, not quite as much as it would for a normal swing. Again, because we're trying to exhaust those legs. Let's see, I'm coming over here. Oh yes, brain training, Beth. Got a comment on YouTube saying that this is brain training more than anything. But yeah, brain training is the best. To wake up your mentality around why you're doing certain things. Again, empowering you to understand how your body moves and why it moves a certain way so that you can kind of work your way out of funky feelings like injuries or pre-injuries. So anything we can do to understand our bodies better is a win. All right, so those are the leg drivers. What we're gonna do now is I actually want you to try using a medium weight and not your heaviest weight available. Because I want to kind of prove that this works. So let's do our leg drivers. We're gonna do 20 of them. So back and forth equals 1. And after those 20, we're gonna go straight into 5 swings. And when I park the bell, when we all park the bell, I want you guys to tell me, did it actually feel like something? Did it feel heavier than your normal swings would feel with this medium weight? So let's go ahead, grab your medium bell, and let's go ahead and start the 20 leg drivers, 5 swings, and then for whoever is doing this with me, let me know if it actually felt like something. All right, 20 leg drivers. Keep your chin parallel to the floor. For anything ballistic with the kettlebell, really any kettlebell training at all, I want you to stay looking forward. So you always have a spot on the wall to stare at so that you know where you are in space. I'm approaching 20. I've got 4, 3, 2, 1. Now I'm going to swing 5 times. And then park the bell. Who did it work for? It worked for me, that's for sure. That still didn't feel like the heaviest thing in the world. So I might amp up those swings at the end to 8 reps or 10. But generally speaking, it works, right? So that would be an example of pre-exhausting a muscle group to make this load feel heavier so that I can still train swings and not say, I only have a light bell, so I'm not going to do any swings. The swing is an essential move. It is a staple. And it is something that there's always a way to work it in. And I'm going to speak to flows really quickly just because the flow is kind of, the big thing of my program, or it's at least a thing that I kind of use to draw people in. But the flow is a really amazing tool to take all the skills and kind of present a showcase of, let's say, all the things you've learned in the week. That's the way that we do it in my program. So what I do is I take all the skills from all the complexes throughout the week, and I say, okay, we've got a row, a clean, a strict press, a snatch, a swing, and a windmill. What order would it make the most sense to do these in? What it makes the most sense to do is do the performance pieces first, the ones that I need the most energy to move that bell as possible. So I might open with the snatch, and I might follow it up with a strict press. Coming out of that, I might swing down and do a clean. And then from there, in some way, shape, or form, bring it up and do a windmill because I have good shoulder stability, because I train with this all the time. If you are new with the kettlebell, you might want to start with the windmill. Start with the thing that's very slow and controlled and needs your absolute attention on every bit and piece of it, so that you're not messing up the windmill or breezing through it or rushing through it because you're getting tired. So again, that's kind of a more extensive thing with building flows. I say, start with the complexes, own those complexes, and understand every piece to it and how to build it. And then you can kind of take that mentality and that approach and take it to building flows. So I'm going to show you guys another version of this. One thing I have not shown you yet is pairing two skills together that are opposing muscle groups. And this would be a great way to save time in a workout. All of these are really time-saving pieces, but especially if you're wanting to get a full body blast in and you just want to get something good and kind of take up all your glycogen stores, or deplete all your glycogen stores rather, over the course of 20 minutes. A great way would be, let's go back to the half snatch, pairing that with either long presses or just an offset front rack squat. So what I could do is from the hang, do my 2 snatches, and then from here, pre-exhaust my quads with a few offset front rack squats and follow it up with long presses. It gives me a bit of time in between the snatches and the long presses for my shoulder to recover. It starts me working on my quads, starting to exhaust them so that when it comes time for the long press, I have somewhat rested shoulders to press the bell overhead, but also I've got those kind of pre-exhaustion going on in the quads so that it actually feels heavy. So again, there's always a way to figure it out. The biggest thing is knowing why you're doing something and then being able to explain it to someone. Being able to teach it is really the best way to know, like, okay, I trust myself with programming and I know what I'm doing here. So I'm gonna go ahead and open up questions for you guys, and then we're gonna do kind of a quick burnout with everything that we've done today. Again, that's very teaching forward, less workouty, but I'm breathing hard here, so I don't know about you guys. Does anyone have any questions? I'm coming over to YouTube. A lot of people are saying they've either never tried these moves before, so that's really cool. I'm glad I've been able to show that to you guys. But a lot are also saying, I've never tried this approach before, or understood this approach, or why things are paired together. And I think it's a huge hole in the kettlebell training world, is not giving enough information in the behind the scenes aspect of programming. So anytime you guys have questions about this, I'm such a nerd. Please message me. Let me know if you've got questions about, hey coach, I've paired these 2 skills together. Does it make sense? I'm probably always going to be able to find a way to make this make sense for you. But I think that's really important too. Being able to understand that there are a zillion different variables that play into why someone would choose to do something, and just figuring out, what that is for you and why you've chosen it. So what we're going to do is this. We're going to really zero in on the hang half snatch and do that with the strict presses for round 1. For round 2, we're going to do the hang half snatch and do it with the Viking push press. Round 3, we're going to do it with the long presses. And round 4, we're going to just do the offset front rack squat. So we're going to do 4 rounds of this, right to left, 2 reps and 3 reps. So 2 on the snatch, 3 on either the whatever kind of press we're doing. After those 4 rounds, we're going to just do a burnout of those leg drivers and the swings, and we'll call it a day. So this is going to end up being about 4 minutes long. So hang with me here. Go ahead and get your bell ready. We're going to be staying with a medium weight the entire time. I'm just going to read through these questions over on YouTube really quick, make sure I'm not missing anything. Yay! Everyone's pretty much saying the same thing. Brain workout, programming is so important, and understanding why to program certain things is so important. So if you're a coach, take notes. Please take these skills away from today. I love seeing people owning their reasoning behind programming and not just throwing things together. It seemed cool. Okay, it might seem cool, but doesn't make sense. So we're gonna be starting with that hang half snatch 2, and then doing 3 strict presses, and I will call it out from there. We ready? Right hand on the bell. 3, 2, 1. Hang position, snatch. Pull down. snatch. 3 strict presses. And pull down to the floor. Other side, hang, snatch. Pull down, snatch. 3 strict presses. Someone said something about confidence, that it gives you confidence in your programming. Absolutely. Because if you can tell yourself, you know, I did this for this reason, then you can get on Instagram Live and tell a few thousand people that as well. Just, you know, no easy feat. We're going to go back to the hang half snatch, but now we're going to be doing the Viking push press. All right, and start. Hang, snatch, pull down. Hang, snatch, Viking push press, 3 reps. To the floor, hang, snatch. Hang, snatch, Viking push press. To the floor. Sweet. All right, next up is going to be the hang half snatches with the long presses. A long press, we have not done it yet, but it's going to be a front squat to an overhead press. It's like a long version of our Viking push press, okay? So after we've gotten the bell overhead, we're going to catch it, squat, push it back up. Catch it, squat, push it back up. And we will do it 3 times, okay? 2 reps, 3 reps for the snatch to the long press. Right hand and snatch. Pull down, hang, snatch. Long press, squat, press, squat, press, squat, press. You might call that a thruster, depending on if you come from the CrossFit world or done that with a dumbbell. It's totally fine. I don't care. Left side, hang, snatch. Pull down, hang, snatch. Long press. 3 reps. Pull down. All right, our final one of this is going to be the hang half snatch with the offset front rack squat. That's because I've done a lot with my legs at this point, so they're feeling nice and toasty. So the squats will feel like something, but also my shoulders are shot, right? If you've done all of this back to back, especially if you didn't take any rest, like I'm forcing rest because I'm talking with you guys. If you did no rest, your shoulders would be toast at this point. So we're going to take the shoulders out of it for that final movement. Right hand on the bell, 2 hang half snatches. Go ahead. Pull down, hang, snatch. Pull down to the front rack, 3 squats. Park the bell. Other side, hang, snatch. Hang, snatch. Pull down to the front rack, 3 squats. And park the bell. Okay, we've come to the burnout. We're gonna do 20 leg drivers, and then we're gonna do 10 swings. I think that's gonna do it. The 5 is not enough, and by this point, our legs are warmed up. They've done quite a bit of snatching and all that jazz, so I think they're ready. So let's get the bell to the hike position. Both hands on the bell. You can do single arm if you want. I didn't end up teaching single arm, so I'm not going to do it in the workout portion. But turn the bell back onto its back corner. We're going to swing our bell to our bells and glue your arms to your torso. As you go back, we've got our leg drivers. 20 reps, back and forth equals 1. Go right ahead. 1, 2, 3. Count for yourself. Little pulses. I'm sitting pretty upright as the bell is swinging forward, and I am letting my chest go forward as the bell is swinging back. 13, 14, should be feeling it by now. When you get done with the leg drivers, go straight into 10 swings. Oh yeah, that worked. Don't force the bell high, just let it swing to wherever its apex is. And Park. Yep. Yes, ma'ams. That did it. Awesome. Okay, so we're going to cool it down, but while I'm leading us through the cool down, if you have any questions, go ahead and drop them now. The cool down's only going to take like 2 minutes, so I'll answer at the end of that, all right? So if you don't have any questions, meet me on the floor, tabletop position, just where we started. Cat-cow a few times. Again, pressing through the shoulder blades, tucking the pelvis, pushing yourself away from the floor into that Halloween cat back, and then arching your back, turning your pelvis up, and squeezing the shoulder blades down, gazing up for cow. Come back to tabletop. Let's put the right hand straight out in front and sit back. This arm is straight. We're really getting into that side's lat. Come back up, other side. Come back up, tabletop position, right hand in front of the left. Open your palm, keep your right arm locked out. This left elbow is going to bend just to make room for me to rotate around this arm. Oh, it's wonderful. It's through the lat and my left QL. So it's a really incredible thoracic rotation stretch. Come back up, left hand in front of the right, open the palm, keep that left arm locked out, rotate your shoulder toward the floor. It's a good one, especially after all those swings that we did and leg drivers. All right, we're gonna do short lever wave unload. So walk your hands forward, sit your hips back. You're going to tuck the pelvis, roll forward to cat, and then continue rolling forward until your hips come to the floor. Shoulder blades squeeze down, open your chest and gaze up. Then tuck the chin, roll down your spine, through your cervical spine, into your mid-back. We're in that cat pose again, and continue going back to child's pose. One more time, roll forward all the way up the vertebrae. Chin up. Tuck the chin, roll back to child's pose. Cool. Lay on the floor with your arms out, palms down. Floor scorpion. Bending the knee, lifting it up, opening the hip, and twisting over. Come back to the front or the starting position. Bend the knee of the other leg. Lift it up, open your hip, and twist. And then lay on your back. Right knee in your chest, right arm out to the side, supine twist. We're gonna add a little move to it. Bend the bottom leg at the knee, grab around your foot, and use it as leverage to squeeze your shoulders into the floor. Come back to the center. Left knee in your chest, left arm out to the side, pull across. Bend the bottom leg at the knee, grab around your foot. And that is it. So I'm going to answer questions if there are any. Let me scroll through for a second. La la la. It's always hard to find questions on Instagram. Okay, I don't see any there, but I do have some on YouTube. I'm going to add these start-stop swings. Looks like glute. Yes, a glute thigh bonfire. That's funny. Yes, it absolutely is. All right. Well, generally speaking, it was more statements than questions, but yes, programming is so important. Mindful programming is everything, right? Being able to not only own positions and skills, but also own knowledge around why you would train them in certain ways and in certain orders in your complexes and your workouts. And then also how to get the most out of a single weight. Not all of us have 10 kettlebells at home, right? A lot of us only have one. This is a very expensive bell, but I can get so much out of it. This is my entire gym. And it's the entire gym of the majority of the people in my program. My program is built for you to be able to get through everything with a medium weight bell. So if that is you, my program is actually not live to anyone right now because it is being rebuilt and relaunching in January 1st with a select group of people. But if you want to join the wait list for it, it's going to be a pretty sweet experience. I really want you guys to be a part of it, especially the early stages of it, because it's been a huge thing I've been working on the last few months. So if that is you, the link is in my bio, just on my website, to join the wait list, and I'll be in touch. But till then, I guess more excitingly, I am going to be putting out some materials with Kettlebell Kings. So in that kind of waiting period, there will be a place to get more stuff like this from me, especially with videos with, my coaching cues over it. A lot of times I give that one cue, it's like, oh my God, I wish I had been listening or thinking about that skill in that way. So, my YouTube has quite a few videos on it, but for a really concise book of them, if you will, that'll be available with Kettlebell Kings very soon. So thank you all so much for joining. I'm going to be sharing this on Kettlebell Kings page and mine. So if you want to go back and listen to any bit or piece of it that, really spoke to you, it will be there. And then I'm also going to be just posting the kettlebell complexes themselves on my page later. So I am seeing one question coming through. What's the website? imcontifitness.com. Big surprise. So it's my it's my Instagram name. I think it's actually posted. Oh, it doesn't say my name. Let me see here. I'm going to tag my username in this caption. So Conti Fitness is my Instagram, and my website is imcontifitness.com. All right. So that's where you can find me. Thank you again for joining. I'm going to leave this up for just a few more seconds in case anyone has questions, but generally speaking, we are done here. And I will join you guys again mid-January, but I bet those Kettlebell Kings materials will be out before then. So be on the lookout for those. I'm sure we'll do an announcement for it. Thank you all so much. I'll see you next time. Okay, I'm back over here, guys. Thank you so much for joining me. And I really, really appreciate all of the questions and just general interaction from you guys. You're awesome. Yes, those leg drivers, incredible. Oh, thank you from France. Love that. What time is it over there? Oh, I guess it's dinner time, right? Okay. Well, yes, the modified swing is an awesome exercise. If you need to get, again, more out of your swing with the weight that you have, it's a great way to burn out the quads and the glutes. Yes, 6 p.m. I had a feeling. All right. Yes, brains are toast at this point. Thank you again for joining. This was totally longer than 20 minutes, but they should call me Chatty Cathy. All right, I'm going to sign off here. Thank you for joining. I'll see y'all next time.